The workshop sat at the far edge of Terralon City, squeezed between a fruit stall and a dusty repair shed that had been closed for years. It was not a famous place. Most adults passed by without noticing it, except when their machines broke and they were desperate for help. But all the children in the district knew the shop very well. They knew the man who worked inside even better. His name was Jace Ward, a human mechanic with calloused hands, tired eyes, and a habit of smiling even when the world was rough on him. Jace had a simple rule. If a child came in with a broken toy, he fixed it. If they had money, good. If not, he still fixed it. Many times he even added tiny upgrades just to make them smile. And whenever a worried child told him, "I can't pay," he simply waved his hand and said, "Pay with a smile." That's enough. For the children, he was a hero. For him, it was just the right thing to do. That morning started like any other. The shop smelled of warm metal and old oil. The soft hum of the tool bench filled the room, while Jace sorted wires into neat piles. He had barely unlocked the door when two small figures stepped inside. They wore simple traveling cloaks with deep hoods that hid most of their faces. They looked too clean, too precise, too perfectly balanced to be ordinary kids. But Jace didn't think much of that. He only noticed that they were young and slightly nervous. The first one, a girl, stepped forward. When she lowered her hood, Jace saw her blue-silver skin and violet eyes that shimmered like tiny galaxies. The second child, a boy, did the same. He looked similar to her, though his eyes were sharper, more cautious, like he was always thinking a step ahead. The girl slowly lifted a toy glider from under her cloak. It was small, shaped like a bird with tiny wings, but one wing was broken clean off. The boy held a smooth cube with cracks running along its edges. Soft sparks flickered from it now and then. The girl spoke first, her voice polite and calm. "Our toys broke. Can you fix them?" Jace knelt down, so he was at eye level with them. "Let me see." He gently took the glider and the cracked cube. Even without testing them, he already knew he could fix both. He had repaired worse things for free. "Yes," he said with a warm smile. "These are easy." The boy looked relieved but then hesitated. "We don't have credits." Jace waved it off. "It's fine. Toys are meant to be enjoyed. I don't charge kids." The siblings shared a confused glance, almost shocked by those words. Jace didn't understand why. Many kids in the city came from poor families, so he assumed these two were the same. He walked to the workbench, motioning them to sit on the long wooden seat beside the counter. While Jace worked, the children watched with quiet fascination. They didn't blink when he soldered tiny circuits or gently realigned thin metallic wings. They seemed deeply curious, especially the boy, who leaned closer whenever Jace used a tool he didn't recognize. The girl's violet eyes followed every move with a kind of soft wonder, like she had never seen a human mechanic work before. Within half an hour, Jace finished the glider. When he placed it on his palm and gave it a small push of energy, it floated gracefully, its wings glowing. The girl gasped softly, her eyes lighting up as if the whole world had turned bright again. Then Jace repaired the cube, sealing its cracks and recharging its inner crystal. When he pressed a button, tiny dancing lights swirled inside like multicolored stars. The boy grinned for the first time. The children both stood and bowed deeply. Jace blinked in surprise. Kids didn't bow in this district. Adults didn't either. But the two bowed like trained nobility. "Thank you, human Jace," the girl said softly. "We are very grateful," the boy added. Before he could reply, they hurried out of the shop. But as soon as they were outside, their voices carried through the street with excitement. "He fixed it. I told you he could. And he didn't take money." Their laughter echoed until it faded in the busy sounds of the city. Jace shook his head and chuckled to himself. Strange kids, but polite. The next morning they returned. Their toys this time were a floating light orb that had dimmed and a small puzzle box that wouldn't open. Again, Jace repaired everything, refusing their offer of a small silver coin. Again, they bowed. The day after that, they came again, and then again. Every day brought a new broken toy. Sometimes it was a tiny spaceship model. Sometimes a musical stone. Sometimes a strange alien game device. They rarely explained how the toys got broken. But they always thanked Jace respectfully. Slowly, they grew more comfortable talking. The girl often told Jace little stories about the stars, the moons, and the glowing rivers of her home world. The boy asked endless questions about human tools, electricity, and engine designs. He seemed hungry to learn. One afternoon, after Jace repaired a tiny projector that showed moving images of mythical creatures, the boy looked at him with curiosity. "Human Jace," he said, "why do you help us so much?" Jace answered without pausing. "Because kids shouldn't worry about broken things. Toys should work. Childhood should feel light, not heavy." The girl stared at him thoughtfully, almost emotionally, as though those words carried a deeper kindness than Jace realized. "That is rare," she whispered softly. Jace didn't understand what she meant, but he simply ruffled her hair and sent them home. He had no idea who they truly were. Across Terralon City, rumors were spreading fast. The palace was in trouble. A faction of rebels had attempted to attack the royal convoy. The queen's children had been taken into hiding for safety. Whole districts were being locked down. The news spread from stall to stall, whispered in markets, shouted by worried workers hurrying home. But Jace never paid much attention to politics. His workshop survived because he stayed out of trouble. He kept his head down, stayed kind, and worked honestly. He didn't realize his kindness had already connected him to the biggest danger on the planet. Late one evening, as Jace was closing the shop, he saw the two children walking toward him from the far end of the street. He waved at them, expecting another broken toy, but as they got closer, he noticed they weren't carrying anything, and they were moving faster than normal. The girl looked scared. The boy seemed nervous. They entered the shop silently and closed the door behind them. Jace frowned. "Are you two okay?" The girl nodded, but her hands trembled. "We wanted to come earlier, but we were kept inside." The boy glanced out the window as if expecting someone to follow them. "The palace is dangerous right now." Jace raised an eyebrow. "Palace? Why are you talking about the palace?" The siblings exchanged a look, like they had said too much. Jace waited patiently, not pushing them. He sat on his stool, leaning forward. "You can tell me," he said gently. "You've been coming here for days." "I won't share anything." The girl finally stepped closer. Her voice was low, almost a whisper. "Human Jace, you should know who we really are. We didn't mean to hide it. We just wanted a place that felt normal." Jace leaned back slowly. Something in her tone made his heart tighten. The girl placed her small hand against her chest. "My name is Lyra Valon." Jace recognized the last name instantly. Everyone knew it. The boy followed. "And I am Aaron Valon." Jace almost dropped his tools. Valon, the royal family, the two children he had been fixing toys for, were the royal heirs of the entire star system. He stared at them, stunned. His voice came out in a whisper. "You're the queen's children?" Lyra nodded sadly. "Yes. But we wanted to be treated like normal kids. And you treated us that way." Aaron added softly. "You never bowed. You never asked for anything. You fixed our toys just because you wanted to help." Jace rubbed his face, overwhelmed. He wasn't ready for royal drama. He wasn't ready to be involved in anything dangerous. He wasn't even prepared to talk to nobility, let alone the future rulers of the system. But before he could ask more, the girl's voice trembled again. "There is something worse. Rebels followed us today. They think we come here often." "Crom." Jace's stomach dropped. "And tomorrow," Aaron whispered. "They might come for you too." Jace closed his eyes for a moment. He was just a mechanic. He fixed toys, not political disasters. But now, two scared children stood in front of him. Children he had treated like family without knowing. He opened his eyes again. "What do you two need?" he asked. Lyra took a shaky breath. "We need safety," Aaron added. "And we only trust you." Jace looked at them, and in that moment, he made a quiet promise to himself. He would keep them safe, no matter what happened next. Night hung over Terralon City like a heavy blanket, filling the alleyways with long shadows and chilly wind. Inside the small workshop, the lights glowed softly, flickering against the metal panels and half-finished machines. Jace closed the door gently, glancing through the window to make sure no one had followed the children. The streets looked empty, but he knew danger could hide in silence. Princess Lyra and Prince Iren stood near the workbench, holding on to each other. They were trying to stay calm, but fear trembled in their small hands. Jace pulled down the shutters and locked them from the inside. He turned to the siblings with a steady expression. "You're safe here," he said. "No one will hurt you." Lyra nodded, though her eyes were still shining with worry. "We didn't want to bring danger to your shop, but we didn't know where else to go." "I am stayed." Aaron clenched his fists. "Our guards are scattered. Some are missing. Someone inside the palace betrayed us." Jace took a deep breath. He had never imagined being caught up in royal trouble. He had never even planned to meet royalty in his life. Yet now they were standing in his workshop, trusting him more than anyone else. He felt a strange mixture of fear and responsibility. He gestured toward a chair. "Sit down first. Tell me everything slowly." Lyra sat, smoothing her cloak, while Aaron stood beside her. They spoke in turns, explaining how their convoy was attacked earlier that day. Rebels had blocked the roads, blasting the escort vehicles and scattering guards. The Queen's advisors ordered the children to hide, but while escaping through the back corridors of the palace district, the siblings were separated from the protective unit. Some guards tried to regroup, but enemies kept appearing. "We hid inside a bakery," Lyra said softly. "Then, we ran through the market. We tried to go home, but home wasn't safe anymore," Aaron added. Jace listened quietly, absorbing every word. The rebels were stronger than he thought. They were bold enough to attack the heirs in daylight, and if they knew the children often visited his shop, then he was no longer just a harmless, unnoticed mechanic. Without realizing it, his life had collided with theirs. When the siblings finished speaking, the workshop fell silent for a moment. Jace slowly placed his hand on the workbench to steady himself. "Okay," he said calmly. "We have two problems. First, you need to stay hidden. Second, we need to find out where the rebels are taking your people." Aaron frowned. "We can't stay here forever. They will come looking." "I know," Jace replied. "But tonight..." The girl's violet eyes softened. "Humyn, Jace, you are very brave." He chuckled quietly. "Maybe, or maybe I'm just too attached to you two, and can't let anything happen." The boy smiled weakly, the fear in his eyes easing just a little. Jace began preparing the workshop. He dimmed the lights, moved crates in front of the windows, and unlocked the storage cabinet where he kept his non-dangerous tools. Tools that could distract, confuse, or slow down intruders without hurting anyone. He handed each child a small device shaped like a round button. "If someone comes in," he explained, "press this. It creates a bright flash of light. Not harmful, but it will blind them for a few seconds." Aaron nodded proudly. "Like your flash tool from before." "Exactly." Lyra studied the device. "You're doing all this for us. Yet you still don't ask for anything in return." Jace shook his head gently. "I don't need anything. Two scared kids need help, that's enough reason." For a moment, the workshop felt peaceful. Lyra leaned against the workbench. Aaron sat on a crate, and Jace watched over them. Outside, the wind whistled softly, brushing against the shutters. Then 3 sharp knocks hit the door. All 3 froze. Jace lifted a hand, signaling the children to stay quiet. He moved silently toward the door and peeked through a tiny hole in the shutter. Armored boots, dark coats, weapons. 3 rebels stood outside. One of them spoke loudly. "Open up. Routine inspection." Jace felt his heartbeat race. He pressed a finger to his lips to keep the children calm. Then he slowly opened the door just a crack. "Evening," he said with a tired expression. "What's this about?" The tallest rebel glared at him. "We're searching every shop. 2 royal brats were seen in this district. If you're hiding them, Humyn, your life won't be worth a broken bolt." Jace forced a laugh. "Do I look like someone who can hide royalty? I fix toys and vacuum cleaners. Nothing more." The rebels pushed the door wider, stepping inside without permission. They scanned the shelves, kicked crates aside, and inspected every corner. Jace stayed close enough to distract their attention but far enough to block the line of sight to the storage nook where the children hid behind stacked metal cases. One rebel lifted a small plush creature from a shelf. "Kids come here often?" "Of course," Jace said casually. "Broken toys are good business." The rebel narrowed his eyes. "Business requires payment. But witnesses say you fix things for free." Jace shrugged. "Their parents pay later. Or I get leftovers from the market. It works out." The tall rebel stepped closer, face inches from Jace's. "If we find out you're lying." Jace met his glare calmly. "I don't lie. Check for yourself." The rebels searched for another minute. They walked right past the children's hiding spot. But Jace coughed loudly at the exact moment one rebel's gaze tilted toward that direction. It worked. The rebel turned his attention back to Jace. Finally, they started backing toward the door. "If the heirs come here," the tall man said, "report it. Immediately." Jace gave a lazy wave. "Sure, if they ever show up." The rebels left without another word. Jace locked the door behind them and took a long breath. Lyra emerged first, eyes wide. "You protected us again." Iran followed, gripping Jace's sleeve. They were so close. Jace crouched to look them both in the eye. "From now on, you two stay right beside me. No hiding alone." They nodded quickly. The rest of the night passed slowly. The siblings sat together on a mattress Jace placed near the back wall. He wrapped them in warm blankets and gave them small, glowing stones to ease their fear. They talked quietly about their mother, the queen, and how worried she must be. Lyra whispered, "When we were running, I thought we would never see her again." Aaron lowered his gaze. "I thought we would be captured." Jace sat near them, listening silently. He felt something tighten in his chest, a protective feeling he had never expected to feel toward 2 alien royal children. He wanted them safe. He wanted them home, but he also feared what might happen if the rebels became more desperate. Late into the night, the children finally drifted off to sleep. Lyra leaned against her brother, her silver-blue hair falling gently over her face. Aaron curled around the glowing stone like it was a tiny sun. Jace didn't sleep. He stayed awake, watching the door, listening to every distant noise, and preparing a plan. At dawn, he gently woke the children. "Eat something," he said, handing them warm bread and fruit. "We're going to find your brother's missing guards. You want to go outside?" Lyra asked softly. "We have to," Jace answered. "If we don't move, rebels will come again. We need to bring you somewhere safer." Aaron's voice trembled. "Do you know where to go?" Jace nodded. "I've fixed machines for half the city. I know the hidden paths, the old tunnels, the cargo routes rebels use. We'll be careful." 19. The children stood up, determination replacing their fear. Lyra tightened her cloak. Aaron tucked the flash device into his pocket. Jace opened a small metal door behind the workshop that led into an underground maintenance tunnel. Dust floated in the dim air, and soft lights glowed along the walls. The children followed him closely. As they walked, Lyra asked quietly, "Why are you helping us so much?" Jace didn't answer right away. He stepped over a broken pipe, guiding them safely around it. "You trusted me," he finally said. "You came to my shop every day just wanting your toys fixed. You didn't treat me like a stranger. You treated me like a friend." Aaron looked up at him. "You are our friend." Jace felt his throat tighten. Then a friend protects friends. The tunnel opened into a wide underground chamber where old cargo containers were stacked. Jace checked the area carefully. No rebels yet. He guided the children toward a hidden staircase leading up to the abandoned hangar district. As they climbed, Aaron whispered, "Jace, I'm scared." Jace placed a steady hand on his shoulder. "I know. But you're not alone. We'll find safety together." When they reached the top of the stairs, a faint sound echoed through the empty metal halls. A weak voice. It wasn't Lyra. It wasn't Aaron. Someone was calling for help. The children froze. Lyra's eyes widened. "That sounds like one of our guards." Jace checked the corridor, gripping a wrench tightly not as a weapon, but as something to protect the children if needed. The voice came again. Faint, but unmistakable. A royal guard was alive. And close. Jace turned to the siblings. "Stay behind me," he said. They nodded, clutching his sleeves as he led the way deeper into the abandoned hangars, toward the voice, toward danger, and toward the next step of saving their lives. The abandoned hangar district felt like a forgotten metal graveyard. The air was cold, almost still, except for the distant echo of humming pipes and the soft rattling of loose panels. Jace moved forward carefully, his steps slow and silent, while Princess Lyra and Prince Iron stayed close behind, clutching the back of his shirt. The weak voice they had heard earlier trembled again in the air. "Help. Please," Lyra whispered softly. "That is Guard Thalen. I recognize his voice." Jace nodded slowly and raised a hand to signal quiet. They reached the edge of a long corridor, where dim blue lights flickered, casting strange shadows on the walls. At the far end, half hidden behind a toppled container, a man in royal armor lay slumped. His armor was cracked, his breathing shallow. Lyra rushed to him without thinking, but Jace caught her arm gently. "Careful. There might be danger nearby." She hesitated, then nodded. Jace approached first, checking the corners, scanning for movement. When he was sure the area was safe, he knelt beside the guard. Thalen's eyes fluttered open. He saw Jace first, then the children behind him, and a wave of relief washed over his bruised face. "Princess. Prince," he whispered weakly. "You're alive." Lyra knelt beside him and gently touched his arm. Aaron crouched down too. "What happened?" Guard Thalen struggled to breathe. "The rebels ambushed us near the eastern wing of the palace. We were separated. I tried to follow your trail, but they caught me again. I escaped barely, but I lost the rest of the unit." Jace examined the guard's injuries. There were deep bruises, a cracked chest plate, and cuts across his arms. He wasn't dying, but he was weak and couldn't walk far without help. "We need to move him," Jace said. "But slowly. If rebels are nearby, we can't stay here." Thalen shook his head. "There are more of them in this district. They've taken control of the old hangars. They're preparing something big." Lyra's voice trembled. "What do you mean?" The guard swallowed painfully. "They're planning to storm the palace with stolen air transports. They want to remove your mother from power tonight." The words felt heavy, cold. Aaron tightened his fists, trying not to cry. Lyra leaned closer to Thalen. "Mother, is she safe?" "For now," the guard whispered. "But if the rebels move, the palace defenses may not hold." Jace felt a knot form in his stomach. This was no small rebellion. This was a full takeover attempt. Everything had escalated beyond anything he had expected. He breathed in slowly and stood up, thinking. "We can't take you straight to the palace," he said to the siblings. "If the rebels attack from here, you'd walk right into danger." Lyra bit her lip. "Then, where do we go?" "We need to reach the Queen's loyal forces," Jace decided. "Somewhere outside the city where they regroup." Thalen coughed. "There is a hidden outpost, north of the city. A royal emergency point. The Queen must have gone there by now." Jace nodded. "Then that's where we're going. But..." Thalen winced, struggling to sit up. "I don't know the exact path from here. And the rebels, they are everywhere." Jace helped him up gently. "We'll figure it out." He looked at the children. Their faces were pale, their eyes wide. But there was also determination in them, strength that went beyond their age. "Stay close to me," he said. "We'll get through this." With Thalen leaning on Jace's shoulder, they moved deeper into the hangar district. The cold metal halls stretched like a maze. Distant voices echoed occasionally, making them freeze each time. Jace guided them through side tunnels, maintenance shafts, and storage paths he remembered from his younger days when he repaired cargo units here. At one point they passed a cracked window that looked out over a wide hangar bay. And inside it, dozens of rebels hurried around stolen aircraft, loading crates, checking fuel lines, and setting up weapons. Aaron gasped silently. "They really are preparing for war." Jace pulled him back from the window. "We can't stay here. Let's move." They continued until they reached an old ventilation chamber that opened into a quiet, empty loading area. The floor was dusty but free of footprints, meaning it was safe for now. Thalen leaned heavily against Jace. "I won't make it much longer. I'm slowing you down." "No," Lyra said firmly. "We don't leave our people behind." Jace smiled softly. "She's right. And besides, I've carried heavier things than you." "You'll be fine." Aaron nodded. "We stay together." Thalen's eyes softened with gratitude. But before they could continue, a metal door on the far side of the chamber slid open. 3 rebels stepped inside. They froze when they saw the group. One shouted, "The Heirs! They're here!" Jace reacted instantly. "Run!" He pushed the children ahead of him. Lyra and Aaron sprinted toward a side corridor. Thalen tried to move, but his injuries slowed him. Jace grabbed him under the arm, pulling him along as fast as he could. Blaster shots echoed behind them, striking walls and sending sparks flying. Jace and the guard dove behind a metal crate, while the children hid behind a pillar. "Jace," Lyra cried softly. "Stay there," he called back. "Don't move." The rebels approached quickly. Jace searched his tool bag frantically. He didn't carry weapons, but he wasn't helpless. He grabbed 2 small tools, one that released a blinding flash and another that generated a loud, disorienting sound. He held his breath, then threw both devices toward the rebels. A burst of white light exploded. A piercing shriek followed. The rebels stumbled, covering their eyes and ears. Jace didn't waste a second. He lifted Thalen with all his strength and shouted, "Go!" The children dashed out of hiding and ran toward the old cargo elevator at the end of the chamber. Jace followed, half dragging Thalen, his muscles burning. The rebels were recovering quickly. Their footsteps thundered behind them. Lyra reached the elevator first and slammed the control panel. The rusted doors slid open. Aaron helped her pull Thalen inside while Jace kept watch. A rebel's hand almost grabbed Aaron's cloak, but Jace kicked the doorframe, slamming the rebel's fingers away. They piled inside. Jace hit the up button. The doors closed just as the rebels reached them. The elevator shook violently but began rising. Lyra pressed herself against Aaron, both panting hard. Thalen leaned against the wall, his eyes tight with pain. Jace wiped sweat from his forehead. "Everyone okay?" They nodded shakily. The elevator reached the surface level. When the doors opened, cold air rushed in. They were at the back of the district now, near the old transport roads that led out of the city. Jace scanned the horizon. "If we follow the old freight path, we'll reach the northern cliffs. The outpost should be near there." They started moving again, sticking close to walls and staying in shadows. The city behind them glowed with distant lights, but everything here was quiet. Too quiet. As they crossed an old bridge, Lyra suddenly tugged Jace's sleeve. "Look, far ahead, bright lights flickered in the sky. Moving lights. Flying lights. It's the Queen's Guard," Thalen whispered. "They've arrived." Jace exhaled deeply in relief. They hurried toward the lights. When they reached the clearing beyond the cliffs, armored soldiers appeared from behind barriers. Their weapons aimed instantly. "Identify yourselves," a guard shouted. Thalen stepped forward weakly. "Royal Unit, Guard Thalen, bringing the Heirs." The soldiers froze. Then they rushed forward. Multiple guards surrounded Lyra and Aaron. bowing deeply and checking them for injuries. Others lifted Thalen onto a stretcher, calling for medical aid. A tall figure emerged from a command vehicle, Queen Valon. Her violet eyes widened when she saw her children. She ran toward them, dropping all royal formality. She embraced them tightly, her hands shaking as she checked their faces. "My children, my precious children, you're safe." The siblings clung to her, tears in their eyes. Jace stood a few steps away, unsure if he was allowed to approach. He felt out of place among the elite guards and flashing lights. But Lyra broke free from her mother and ran to him. Aaron followed. They hugged him tightly around the waist. "Jace saved us," Lyra said. "Every step. He protected us," Aaron added. "We would be captured without him." Queen Valon approached Jace slowly. She studied him for a long moment. Her gaze deep, not cold, but grateful. "You risked everything," she said softly. "You protected my children when no one else could." Jace rubbed the back of his neck, embarrassed. "They're good kids. I just did what anyone would do." The queen shook her head. "No. Many would have handed them over. Many would have taken advantage. But you placed their lives above your own." She extended her hand toward him. "Terralon honors you today." Jace didn't know what to say. He simply nodded, humbled. The queen turned to her guards. "Bring this man any supplies he needs. His shop will be under royal protection from this day onward." Lyra smiled brightly. Aaron beamed. "Does that mean we can visit him again?" Lyra asked hopefully. The queen laughed softly. "Yes. As often as you wish." "Ah." The children hugged Jace again. He hugged them back, feeling something warm bloom in his chest. For the first time in a long time, he felt like he had done something truly meaningful beyond fixing broken toys. He had saved a family. He had protected the future of a world. And all of it began with kindness that asked for nothing in return. The queen looked at him one last time before guiding her children toward the transport craft. "Humyn, Jace," she said softly. "The galaxy needs more hearts like yours." Jace watched them leave, the night wind brushing against him gently. He felt tired, but calm inside. Tomorrow, he would return to his workshop. Kids would come with broken toys again. Life would go on. But now, everyone who visited would know one thing. The humble human mechanic had saved the royal heirs, and the royal family would never forget him.